Hello everyone. Since the new Uther came out the past month and he has been seeing a lot of pro play recently, I've decided to make a video on him. I know I've promised to make support guides for almost a year now, but I've never really gotten around to it, mainly due to school and things like coaching GFE and Heroes of the Dorm. But now that I've graduated and Heroes of the Dorm is now over, I've finally been able to switch back from being a flex player back into my main role as a support. So to begin, I thought I'd start with a guide on Uther. In this video, I'm going to primarily focus on Uther's healing build and not the Holy Shock build. So let's get right into it. To understand how to play Uther, you need to understand how his kit works fundamentally and how you should be using his abilities. Uther's base kit consists of 2 heals, the first of which is your Q, Holy Light. Holy Light is a single target heal that heals both Uther and his target. It is a 12-second cooldown and is your primary healing ability when it comes to keeping your team alive. His second healing ability is his W, Holy Radiance. Holy Radiance heals and damages targets in a straight line and is essentially your sustain as well as area of effect healing. Ideally, you want to hit as many targets as possible while prioritizing healing your teammates over dealing damage. The more teammates you hit, the better value you get. However, the healing value on targets is a little less than half the amount of your Holy Light, so you do want to keep that in mind when you're trying to heal up low health targets. These heals are complemented by his third ability, Hammer of Justice. Hammer of Justice is a single target melee range stun that lasts for 0.75 seconds and, of course, does a tiny bit of damage. This is extremely useful for peeling targets off your carries or following up on stuns from your team. And finally, we have his passive, Devotion. Devotion is what really makes Uther's kit all come together. Whenever Uther heals a hero, he grants him 25 armor for 2 seconds, and upon death, you gain an ability called Flash of Light. Flash of Light is a small spammable burst heal every 1.5 seconds and can be very crucial and clutch when it comes to saving your teammates. Being able to utilize the damage mitigation from his passive is what really separates the good Uther players from the mediocre. So now that we fully understand essentially what Uther does, as well as how you should play him, Level 1, you have 2 options, Wave of Light or Hammer of the Lightbringer. Both are viable in ensuring that Uther doesn't run out of mana. However, most of the time you will want to take Wave of Light. Wave of Light is your go-to talent as it allows you to stay in the backline and heal, as most healers should. By returning mana for each hero hit, it keeps your mana regen up and still in the fight, provided, of course, you are actually hitting multiple teammates. On the other hand, there's Hammer of the Lightbringer. The only time you really should be taking this talent is if your team is able to provide enough threat or the other team doesn't have enough damage to actually kill you without using an excessive amount of resources. Running up in melee range and smacking heroes and minions for mana more often leaves you in a position of threat and much more likely to die. The risk and reward is often not worth it, so it's usually better to just take the safe option of Wave of Light. As for Silver Touch is essentially useless because the mana reduction is paltry compared to the benefits of the other talents. And what use is increasing the range when you should already be within healing range of your teammates? It's not like Uther's heals have really low range. Level 4. Here, you can choose between Pursuit of Justice or Holy Fire. Pursuit of Justice is extremely useful for Uther to maintain mobility within fights and reposition quickly after following up on a stun or peeling for a teammate. With no mobility talents, Uther is often unable to escape some situations other supports would be able to, and Pursuit of Justice provides him that movement to move in and out without compromising his own position. Alternatively, it can also enable you to move into a better position to get that sick Divine Storm. Aside from Pursuit of Justice, however, Holy Fire is also a great option for just standard AoE damage and wave clear. Overall, it is a pretty solid pickup, and it provides that little extra damage you could need. Here, though, we completely disregard Holy Shock, as it is essentially another useless talent in the Uther healing build. Your Q should primarily be saved to heal targets that are in dire need of healing, not to kill other heroes. Level 7. Guardian of Ancient Kings is by far one of the most broken and OP talents in Heroes of the Storm. By increasing the amount of armor giving to 75 instead of 25 on stun, silence, and rooted targets, it beats out the need for cleanse as it applies on every single healing talent you have and essentially makes a target extremely hard to kill for 2 seconds. Hand of Protection is essentially a version of cleanse where you can reduce the CD by auto-attacking things. However, Guardian of Ancient Kings is better as it is able to give armor and just makes your hero take less damage, and it is much more consistent. However, Hand of Protection is great if the other team only has 1 CC, as you pretty much can't get value out of Guardian of Ancient Kings at this point, and Cleanse is just more useful for things like slows. Armor of Faith, on the other hand, basically boils down to, why are you getting CC'd? You must be out of position in the front line. Useless talent, good for keeping yourself alive, but what use is it for the team? Level 10, Divine Shield and Divine Storm. Both ultimates are good. Divine Shield gives you 2 seconds of vulnerability and some movement speed to your target. It's great for when your teammates want to dive their backline, or for just saving people and getting them out of sticky situations. Divine Storm, on the other hand, is extremely good for wombo comps, or even punishing mobile assassins like Genji, Zeratul, or Illidan. Being able to lock down and kill heroes that would otherwise run wild in your backline unchecked can be game changing. Often, just having the threat of it happening is enough to force enemy assassins to play a lot safer. Level 13, Well Met. Almost always you want to take Well Met. The name enough should be a reason to pick this talent. But jokes aside, this talent is effectively a slightly weaker shrink ray, except applicable every 8 seconds. It helps peel an enemy off one of your squishies, or enable your team to stick on their target. I know the potential healing you can get from Blessed Champion is great, but let's be real. How many times are you actually going to be able to auto attack to get value from it? Being able to sneak in a few would already be a blessing. Spell Shield is great, but Uther's already passively tanking from indirectly healing himself when casting spells. You don't exactly need to be even tankier. Level 16, Benediction and Tyr's Deliverance. Here's where it gets a little tricky. What you get on this talent tier often relies on what your team comp is. By default, you want to take Benediction, as it essentially lets you cast one of your spells twice in succession. This allows you to focus on AoE healing, burst healing one target, or stun locking a target down. However, Tyr's Deliverance increases healing by 40% from any source, so if your team has another healer, or many heroes that have self-sustain, such as Sonya, Thrall, or Leoric for example, they can actually end up healing themselves for ridiculous amounts and making themselves much harder to kill. Level 20, Redemption. You almost always want to take Redemption here. When you get here, your playstyle as Uther completely changes. Because you have a secondary life, you can play a lot more aggressive during teamfights, as killing you is not actually good for the other team. By utilizing Devotion and repeatedly casting Flash of Light when you are dead, you have a ridiculous amount of burst heal that makes it very hard for the other team to kill the targets that they want to. Once you come back, you can heal up your targets again when your cooldowns are gone, and you can keep it going. Divine Protection is great, but it is a bit redundant with Guardian of Ancient Kings, as you can't go over the hard cap of 75 armor, thus making the value greatly diminished. The upgraded ultimates are nice, but nowhere near as useful as Redemption is in every situation, except for very few niche situations, such as de-shielding to channel the last cap on Towers of Doom. So now that you guys understand the talents and what Uther is capable of doing, I'm going to teach you guys a couple of tips and tricks that will help you up your game. So I described earlier the basis of healing with Uther. Your Q is your burst heal, your W is your sustain heal, and your E is for peeling and following up on stuns. So ideally, you want to be spaced near your backline. Slightly in front is okay, but most of the time, barely in range of your tanks so you can heal them if they are focused. You do not want to be in a position to die, because if you are, who's going to heal and save you? You never want to heal yourself as Uther, because your abilities all passively heal you and should keep you healthy for a majority of the fight. If any stray area of effect damage comes your way, the amount from your heals should keep you alive. The key things to pay attention to in fights are what heroes on your team are actually taking damage. You want to be watching for when CC comes out and from who and where it can come from. When the CC comes out and before the damage comes out, that is when you want to throw your Q on top of a target to mitigate the damage taken with Devotion. Timing is key. Throughout this whole process though, your team is likely to be taking damage from other sources as well, so you want to be constantly throwing Ws to heal your entire team. The more people you hit, the faster it comes off cooldown, so prioritize low health targets while trying to hit as many people as you can. As threats come into your range, drop stuns on them to get them off your carries or yourself. Smack whoever is trying to kill your team as long as you can do it safely. However, don't compromise your position by chasing them off elsewhere. The worst thing you can do as a healer is abandon your team before they're dead. Now, using Divine Shield well is an extremely tricky one to get down. Understanding what is coming from the other team is vital to your success. You essentially use this spell much like you would use Cleanse. If you realize a lot of damage is about to hit a teammate hard, you drop that D-Shield on him. Block it all. Similarly, if your team is diving a backlane carry, you want to use it on your melee assassin to ensure he gets all of his damage off and cannot be disrupted. You want to use your Divine Shield early in a fight, not late. You might not always get optimal value, but it is much better to have gotten a little value than nothing at all. And last but not least, knowing when to die. Unlike other supports, Uther generates a ton of value when he dies. Because of his passive, Uther gains enormous amounts of burst healing with Flash of Light upon death and can make a teammate super hard to take out. So effectively, you want to kind of balance your usefulness with when you're alive and when you're dead. When you have no mana, don't be afraid to just suicide into the other team. By dying, you can still heal your teammates and be useful. A manaless Uther is a useless Uther. Once you have redemption, making sure you rotate cooldowns and act like a secondary tank can just be as useful, since when you die is actually a hindrance to the other team. If you have Divine Storm, you have the threat of popping up in the middle of their team right after and look for a big Divine Storm. Or you can just back up, heal up your teammates very quickly, and you're good. You should always trade for some value, however. Better you than a teammate, and better nothing if possible. And that just about wraps up my guide for Uther. Hopefully, you learned something and can better understand him regardless if you're a support player or not. In the future, I will be creating a lot more of these videos for various heroes with a specialization in supports and the role in more detail. In the meantime, if you have more questions or have something specific, you can leave a comment below or catch me anytime when I'm streaming at twitch.tv/Ugers. Now go out there and put the oof in Uther.